harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you gets easier with every guest we bring on. So today, I have Aleksandra. She's calling in from...
Milan, Italy.
In Italy. Whoa. Nice. I love it over there. Yeah. It's been a while since I've been there, but I really enjoyed my trip to Italy. It's been a long time. It was back in, I believe 82. So it was a long time ago. But my memories are still fond of the time I spent over there. So, what part of Italy are you in?
I'm in Milan.
Oh, Milan. I love it. That's exactly where I landed, was in Milan. I had some in-laws over there, and gosh, they're still there, right? But I really did. I went down to Florence and Pisa. That was my lifelong, I wanted to be in the Tower of Pisa. That was my dream from a child, is to be able to walk and climb up into the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and I did. And it was like,
oh, wow.
So awesome. That's my fondest memory of being over there. It's like I actually walked in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and I don't think you can get in it anymore, can you?
I have no idea. I haven't been to Pisa yet.
Oh, okay. Well, okay then. Yeah, it was fabulous. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed Italy. I just kind of toured all the little countries over there, and it's kind of neat. Yeah. So have you lived there all your life, or this is something new for you?
No, I originally come from Poland, and I've been living in Italy since around 3 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then that's probably a good reason why you haven't got there yet, right?
Yeah. I've seen quite many places, but Pisa not yet.
Okay. All right. Are things starting to open up a little bit over there?
Yeah, they are. They are. Also the borders. I just came back from vacation abroad, so even if their numbers are increasing in other countries in Europe, so they are again thinking about another lockdown.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But what you gonna do? Right? Yeah, it's interesting. I know I've looked at it as a time for that inner action with yourself, right? To really get to know. I'm an identity revelation specialist, so it's all about really finding out who you are in the depth of your soul, right? And to be able to have this kind of extra time, shall we say, that you can't just run around being busy and everything, It gives us an opportunity to really look inward to find out our true spirit essence and where we're going to go from here and where we've been, and just kind of revamp it and get resourceful, right?
Yeah, definitely. I thought this time for me was like a blessing. Of course, I was sad for my friends who got ill and for everybody who died, but for those of us who could just stay home and have a bit of time for ourselves, it was amazing, because you never have so much time for yourself and to look at your life from a perspective and
Right.
and just think what to do, how to go from there.
Right. So you've got pros and cons on both sides of the fence, right?
Yeah,
That's that's always where it is. You're either over here or you're over here, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, Alexandra, what is it that you do over there in Italy, in Milano?
So, my name is Aleksandra Di Gesaro, and I'm a fashion photographer, writer, and entrepreneur.
Ooh, okay. So, what got you into photography?
Well, I've loved photography since I was a teenager. In my family, my dad loves photography, my grandfather loves photography, so it was kind of natural. I got totally passionate about it when I was around 13 and I got my first digital camera. So I've been taking pictures of everything. Just I never thought it would be my job. I
Right.
just did it, was doing it for fun. I also studied photography as one of my faculties on university, but it was just for pure pleasure, for personal fun. I just wanted to organize my knowledge. As I said, I never thought it would be my job.
I love photography myself, and I travel a lot, all over, right? And it's just like the beauty that's out there on the planet. It's breathtaking, and to be able to take it from different directions, different times of the day, and it's interesting. I've been back to a lot of favorite places, right? And I've taken like some of the same shots over different years, and when you start to compare them, you're like, wow, is this the same place? Because it looks so different, right? Because nature is always changing, which we can learn so much from that, right? And because we are a part of nature, we continue to change right along with it, right? Whether we want to go or not, the change is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, what does a photography do in business? I mean, how does your job work with that? Do you work for different magazines? Do you do artwork where you hang it on the walls? What do you do with that? That's got me
So
curious.
mostly I work working as a fashion photographer. I work with brands, magazines. I also work with a lot of bloggers now because there's this new field of fashion photography that is blogger and influencer photography, and many girls, all the pictures for Instagram and fashion blogs. This style that they have to seem so casual. They are not casual at all. They are, it's another field of photography to take these pictures. And actually, many girls come to me and tell me, "Oh, so many photographers don't understand what I need, don't understand the pictures I want." So I'm working with this quite a lot now.
So, what does a casual photo look like versus the other?
Well, of course, when you take, for example, a campaign for a brand, or you take it in a studio or on location, of course, everything has to be perfect, and you see that the girl is a professional model, it has a perfect makeup, and you know that it's kind of staged, even if they also sometimes should seem more casual, more in movement. But these are pictures that were taken by a professional photographer, whereas those for influencers should look as if they've been taken by phone, just accidentally by somebody. So, when the girl is walking, taking sun, drinking coffee, they just have to seem natural as if your best friend just took a photo of you while you were doing something. So this is the difference, let's say, between.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, how are you doing that now with this lockdown? Are you able to like do it over the internet through the Zooms, or how are you doing this? Like, guys, I need some
No.
headshots, and I need a few other things.
Well, during the no, I haven't taken pictures through Zoom yet, but I have to find a way to do it actually. No, during the lockdown, I haven't been taking pictures. It restarted lately. Of course, there are restrictions also for me traveling in the trains and in the studios. There have to be less people. During the lockdown, I focused actually on the other branch of my business that I've been building recently, and it's that I'm helping artists turn their creative passion into a full-time job, and practically I just teach of what I've learned during my own process of becoming a full-time photographer, because I see so many amazing and talented people who never even try because they say it's risky, or they will never manage, or they don't know how to do it. And
Right.
I read somewhere that like 75% of people hate their jobs. Some sources even
Oh,
say
yeah,
like
I know
up to
it's crazy.
85%. And it's so mind-blowing for me. And I thought, okay, many of those people would love to do some creative jobs. They just have no idea how to start. So
Right.
that's also what I'm teaching and how I'm helping. So this was what I was focusing on during the lockdown.
That's beautiful because it's so true. I mean, people stay in a position in a job. Why? Because it's a paycheck at the end of the week, right? And now with that totally disrupted, it's like it gives them an opportunity to maybe like think twice or three times, like what could I be doing, right? What do I really love? What do I really, like? Where did I want to be? Where's my dreams again, right? And to be able to be out there, because I think the entrepreneurial spirit is in everybody on the planet. Because when you look back in other times, everyone was pretty much an entrepreneur. And then we hit the industrial world, and it was manufacturers, and it was like, okay, everybody goes into a job, right? And you sit down on this little thing, you put this little nut on here and the screw over here, it's just kind of like, it was just like repetition. And now it's kind of starting to kind of flip the switch. And I think you're right, with like what you're doing. People don't know how to become an entrepreneur. It's like they want to, but it's so foreign, and it's been generations, where, my grandpa worked at this plant, and my dad worked at this plant, and now I work at this plant, and I'm teaching my kid to work at this plant. It's like, oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so where do you go from here? And with this lockdown, as you put it here, it's given people an opportunity to say, okay, I really have time to think about this, but I don't know how. I'm lost, right? So when someone comes to you and when someone says that, what do you do? How do you ignite that spark in them to say, yeah, that's what I want to do? What do you do? What's that trigger?
Well, we definitely look at what they do and what is like unique about them and how they can use it, and instead of being just, let's say, another painter or photographer, how they can become more unique. And the most important thing I teach is how to learn and how to build your business, because most artists, if you say the word business, they will just run away. They will tell you, no, I don't want to be a businessman. No, I'm not, like creepy salesman. I just want to sell my art. And I'm like, okay, but if you want to sell your art on a regular
then you
basis,
better call it a business.
You have to build a business. Even, if you just want clients to come to you on their own, you're just a hobbyist who luckily sometimes manages to sell something.
Right.
So I'm teaching them that business doesn't have to be so scary, and you just have to learn some principles that can actually be fun, and just how to build this foundation.
Right.
I teach how to make the transition, because many of course have a day job, and I don't tell you like quit and just go ahead, will be fun. It's difficult, and we all know it, and saying that it's not would be a lie. And I also do not recommend doing like I had to do that. I had to start earning right away because of my life situation. So I also teach them how to make this transition less painful, how to do it gradually, to start building foundation when you are still at work, so that you also see how it goes, see if that is really what you want to do, and also see how much you can earn from this. And even if later this moment of transition can be that you have to quit your job and maybe your earnings will get lower at the beginning, you also know more or less how much monthly you can make from your art. And then if you have more time, of course you can scale it. So we work on the mindset, and also like what you can use right away, what you can do right away, because most people focus on what they don't have. Like they tell me, oh, I don't have the right equipment, I don't have this, I don't have that. Okay, but here is a list of at least 10 things you can start doing right now, that you can use already what you have to earn, to start building a business, to start gaining the momentum. So focus on this and just start doing it, and the other things we will work on them later.
That's right. You have to start somewhere, and that is so true with just about any business, right? Where they find an excuse, right? Well, I need all this equipment. I work with different people that are looking to do a show or a podcast or blogging or whatever, they want to do. The audio is one thing, but when you start putting the visual into it, that's a whole different ball game, right? And it's like, well, I don't have this kind of camera, I don't have this kind of mic, I don't have this, I don't have this lighting, I don't da 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 da. And it's like, whoa, slow down, right? You don't need thousands of dollars. You don't need to go to this great big fancy studio. There's things that you can do to generate and create. I mean, with the technology today, you can really start, say, on a shoestring and build it, but you got to start somewhere, so kind of let's just like reel it in here. Here's the beginning. Move away from the excuses. How serious are you? How committed are you? Right? And again, I think a lot of it has to do too with building that confidence. And I'm sure you probably run into that, because again, with an artist, and they're usually a perfectionist, right? Oh gosh, I can remember when I did a lot of arts and craft things, and a lot of things that I put together with my hands, right? And when you're working with certain equipment and you're shaping stuff and whatever, sometimes it just goes that way, and you can't change it. But that's the natural flow of what it wanted to do. But up here, you're thinking, no, it's supposed to go that way. And it's like you pick out every little, thing that you think is wrong with it. And that was a challenge for me to overcome that and just say, wait a minute. Da Vinci probably saw, the same little things, right? That one little thing is that color was supposed to be over here. That fold was supposed to be like this, right? And no one else is going to see it except you. But one thing I did find out that after I completed it and I sat it aside and I didn't look at it for a couple of weeks and I come back, it was almost as if where I thought was an imperfection, like it was gone. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if I'm not finding like on the spot, then nobody's going to sit there and pick it out again because they're looking at the whole picture of it. Not one little tiny piece, right? And to learn that that's nature's flow, because whomever is going to purchase that, that's probably the one thing unconsciously that they needed to see, right? So being able to do that, and again, we look at all those different imperfections in life. They're not really imperfections, and that's what this show is all about, is becoming that better you, right? And so when we start picking ourselves apart and saying, oh, I'm broke here and I'm broke there and I don't have enough confidence, I don't trust this, I don't believe in myself, and all this stuff, and it's like, whoa, slow down. All right, God doesn't make junk, okay? This is, again, you said mindset, right? It's like, where are you in the belief of who you are, what you are, where you're going? And start really looking at the assets of yourself. When I work with people, because I work as an identity revelation specialist, right, is who is that true you inside of here? What is the reflection out here that you see in others you don't like? Whoa, let's turn that mirror around and say, okay, is that in here that I don't like? And that's why I'm like saying, yeah. And your artwork kind of reflects the same way. Would you find that kind of stands out when you're working with clients and when you're working with your photography and everything? That you kind of spot those things and then you have to step back a little bit and say, wait a minute, right?
Yes, well, definitely. When you're creating, you always have this one thing that you notice instantly, and that this is your, like you say, your failure, and really nobody notices because you are so obsessed. You see only this one point,
right?
But nobody will see it. And the problem with many artists is that the most common excuse is, I'm not ready. My art is not ready. It's not good enough. And like, it is good enough. There are people who need exactly what you have to give them. So do it right now. And actually, talking about what you said about the mirror and the imperfections, it reminds me of my photography clients, actually, who sometimes I don't feel like a photographer. I feel like a psychotherapist, literally. Some of them, they have to tell me their whole life story before we can take pictures. And also I notice all of their fears and what they don't like about themselves. Because the
Right.
truth is, if you don't like yourself, you will not like the pictures, no matter who
No
takes it.
matter what.
You
That's
can
right.
ask Annie Leibovitz, and you won't like the pictures. But so later I hear all those things like, oh, my upper lip is too small, or I don't like my right profile, or something. Could you just retouch this thing? And so I immediately know what is the person's biggest issue, even if they don't always say it like literally, but I see also how they move. Now I don't want to take this. This can we cut out? This can we edit? This can we here, can you make me look higher, or something? So I immediately know what is their biggest concern, and it's actually
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah, it is, because we become our greatest critic, right? And it's like you become your own best friend or your own worst enemy. There's your choice,
Yes,
right? What are you going to do
definitely.
about it? So, again, it's what we see in us as an imperfection that others actually see as a perfection. It's strange when you're on the outside looking in versus on the inside looking out, right? And I think that's true
Yeah.
with every profession. It's like an author. Same thing, right? It's like, well, my book's never going to be finished. No, because you know what? Your life journey is never going to end, right? It's always an adventure. I can remember when I was writing my first book. Oh my God. It just kept going and going and going and going. And it's like I had this encyclopedia, right? And it's like I went to bed one night thinking, I'm never going to get this book done. The next morning I woke up and I hear this message from Spirit that said, Beverly, you're not writing an encyclopedia. You know how many books you're putting in here? You can't tell a lifetime in one book. Oh yeah, okay. Boom. Within like a week, I had everything segmented. My book was up, out, boom. Right? And now I've got
Yeah.
several books. So in life is like that. Whether it's a photograph, whether it's an art drawing, whether it's an adventure trip, it's like one piece at a time. And I've learned too, because I do a lot of workshops and everything, and you get excited because you've learned so much and you just want to share it all at once. But that's overwhelming to the other person, So it's like baby steps, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm people, right? And so your
Yeah.
artwork doesn't have to be that intricate, right? So when you start with this piece, and when someone gets a message out of that, they're going to come back and say, oh, what else does this artist have? Because I collected art, right? And I had some of my favorite artists, right? It's like, okay, what do they got going now? And to be able to watch them grow from this point to this point. But it was also my own personal growth, right? And so
Yeah.
we feed off of one another. And it doesn't matter what business that you're in, because we are a reflection of one another. And we are that growth, right?
Yeah, definitely. Some, no, not some, many said actually art doesn't exist until it's seen by an audience, because audience is the final creation part of the art. So whether you're a painter, photographer, or a writer, your artwork doesn't exist
Right.
if it's not perceived by somebody else. And it's fascinating how everybody sees different things in something that for you may seem so obvious.
Right. Oh, that is so true. I was just thinking that, it's like, I mean, like I said, I've taken photographs of the same, place, and a year difference, sometimes just months difference, and you're looking at it and it's like, wow, the changes of time, and,
Yeah.
from spring to fall to summer to winter, it just brings out a whole different ambiance, and you can actually feel it. You just feel nature in that if you're taking nature pictures and stuff. I'm not much of a person picture taker. Now I take a lot of pictures, of course, with the wedding this past weekend and whatever, but at the same time, a lot of my photography is just nature itself, and I love water. To me, it's that flow in life, I think, that movement, that sound, that quietness with nature. Because when I do my workshops and stuff, it's all about nature and how it works, and the whole thing. So, and again, we find out what our passion is, what's our love, right? And become that expression. So yeah, you got your challenges cut out with you. I know artists, I know what they do, like they say, but it's not complete, it's not ready. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, luckily, I'm not a perfectionist myself. I am more the type of, okay, let's get it done and let's move to another project, because if I try to improve this one, I will never manage. Correcting never brings any good. You just keep messing things up,
right.
In my opinion. So you just okay, get it done on the level that you have at the moment and move to the next project, and there you will use what you've learned with the previous one, and it will be already a level higher. But don't try to make a masterpiece of your first work, because it will never work out. So
right.
like I also write novels, and my first novel has been published, my second novel is in the process, and since the very beginning, my thought was, okay, my novels will be readable from the third one. Like, I'm not pushing myself to be perfect on the first one. I consider, okay, first one is to see how it goes, see the whole process, and learn during the writing. And of course, I'm trying to do my best, but I'm letting myself, like, okay, I'm not stressing out, even if I get a bad review, because this is just a try. I will start caring from the third one.
Well, and again, as we grow, right? We grow physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. All of that comes into effect when you're
definitely.
in that process.
I wrote my first book. It took me 3 years and a half, and I see such a difference between how I was writing at the beginning, how I was writing at the end. And it was a novel, so it had a story, and I just see a difference and growing in the style and in everything, because I was growing.
Right. I'll tell you. You're gonna love this story. It's so funny. So I'm writing this encyclopedia, right? and now we're looking at like 5, 6, 7 months are going by, right? And all this is happening. I get my book done, right? I get it published. The following weekend, I got something. It wasn't, I think I saw it on Facebook or whatever. It's like, write a book in a weekend. I'm thinking, are you serious? Right? And I was going to be in Vegas at the time that this was happening. So I said, yeah. So I signed up for it, right? I'll tell you, it was really beautiful. How they broke it down. And you know what? It works. It really works, right? Because you don't sit there in this long, drawn-out process where your mind is going off and all of this information, you're trying to bring it all in one spot, It's like, take 5 minutes. 5 minutes, write down the name of your chapters. Just write. You can't think, just write. Because that alarm's going to go off in 5 minutes, right? And then you take 15 minutes, you pick out which one of these. You take 15 minutes and you write that chapter and you don't think about it, right?
Yeah.
And you do that, and then you go back and you edit. And it's amazing because you don't have all of these long descriptives. I used to write for the newspaper back in the 70s. I wrote for 5 different papers, and I did a lot of freelancing. Well, you get paid by the inch. So I got real creative using, descriptive words that they couldn't break my what I wrote apart, because it would take away from the story. Right? So when I did that, I'd have an article this long instead of this long. So like I say, when you get paid by the inch, right?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of weddings and showers and anniversaries and things like that, right? And get real descriptive. So you get a picture. You want a picture that is vertical instead of horizontal because it's longer, right? So you learn all these little tips about that. So here you are. Now I'm writing this book, and it's like, wait a minute, I kind of got to shift. You don't need all these major descriptive words, right? And so, it's interesting how things shift in where you're at in those processes and everything. And art is the same way. Whether you're creating something with your hands, whether it's a painting, whether it's a sculpture, right? It was like, who was the one that did David? Is that Da Vinci? No.
No, Michelangelo.
Yeah, Michelangelo. He said, when he was asked, how did you carve that? And he says, well, I just took away everything that wasn't David, right? So when you look at that in your life, and you look at yourself, and when you start to discover who you really are, it's just moving the things out of the way that you're not to discover who you are. So your artwork is the same thing. Whatever it is on that brush, you're putting on to that palette, that canvas, what the canvas is asking for, right? To come to life. So again, you talked about mindset, right? In that creativity. So where your thoughts are is where your creation ends up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that is so beautiful what you're doing. And, and again, it's getting creative. So when this whole COVID lockdown, upside down world came into play, what was your first thought when it's like, whoa, I can't be out there interacting with my photography? Where did your mindset go? Where did you go, Aleksandra, with what was going on in your life, in your career?
Well, actually, it was kind of funny, you can say, because at the beginning of February, as I started a course where I was focusing on this business part, and I decided to focus on the part of helping artists. And then there came COVID, so I could put all my time into this part of work. So I wasn't really like, oh my God, what should I do now? Because I had a lot to do, and I knew I had a lot to do. So I was actually happy everything was closed, nobody was disturbing me. I could work all day and just get my job done. So yeah, I of course it was okay. How will I take pictures? Well, for the moment I can't take pictures, so let's just, I don't know, I didn't have this moment of, oh my God, what will I do now? I just actually, I guess it's because a year ago I had a situation in my family that a member of my family got very ill and had to have an urgent surgery and spend a month in hospital. And thanks to the way my business was operating, that I anyway had not only based on one-on-one photography, of course I do it, but I also do graphic designs, I teach, I do a lot of things online. Thanks to this, I just, the next day I jumped on a plane and I spent a month in hospital. I worked from my laptop from hospital and I didn't lose any money on this. And in this moment, my biggest fear was, oh my God, and if I would have a full-time job, like a 9-to-5 job, and the boss wouldn't let me come, like how awful that would be, how terrifying that I wouldn't be able to be with the person who needs me.
Right.
So I understood at that moment how important it was to have my business as flexible as possible. So probably that's why COVID wasn't such an earthquake for me, because I was already prepared from the things you can't foresee.
Right. And that's beautiful. That's a great message, to our listeners out there as to, what you really can do, right? And it is about that freedom. And it's interesting, when you said, the business is the boss won't let you do that or the other thing. When you look at what has transpired, so many people now are working from home. And, it really does work. Again, it was that old theory that if you didn't get up, drive to work, 9 to 5, whatever, that you couldn't be productive. And I think a lot of businesses are realizing that, wow, the productivity from the home, especially I think with women, it's like you want to be there for your kids. At the same time, you want to strangle them. But, But it's finding that happy medium. But to be able to be there with your little ones and give that guidance in that direction, but still be productive, because when your focus is right there, you know what you have to get done, you know the time element, you work faster and harder and more focused,
Yeah,
than when you're
definitely.
at work, because you're worrying about, oh my gosh, what, I got to do this when I get home, I got to do that when I get home, but you can really do things in between, because how many times, you're at work, everybody gets up, they do a potty break, right? They go get a cup of
Right.
coffee, they stand around the copy machine. So much time gets wasted in a 9 to 5, and they've proven that out of an 8-hour day, 3.5 to 4 hours is production. And they're finding now that has increased at home, right? Because you have that time element, and it's like, okay, I can break for lunch, get the kids, their lunch, whatever, get them set up, ready to go. You go back in there, it's like on the way, it's like, okay, I throw this load in, boom. Now you don't have to think about that, so I'm kind of going to have to be up to midnight to do laundry. Nope, you got a load in there, and you go, you sit down, you focus on that. Whew, time to get a 15-minute break, you go out, do whatever that next is. And everything seems to really come more into focus, and you're not concerned about, because you've got a goal to reach. You've got yourself on a system, and you're right there, right? Have you found that to be true in your business and what you're doing, to where now you can actually get more done than what you did before?
Well, actually, I've been working home since a few years, so it wasn't anything really new to me. But many of my friends tell me, I'm actually working much more than I used to, because, for example, I don't lose 2 hours a day for driving to work and back. So now I can
Exactly.
work for those 2 hours. Other thing is lunch, that they don't spend 1 hour on having lunch. They have just something nice at home. And many people are telling me, I finally have time to cook and not eat some rubbish. I finally have time to make exercises. I finally have time to actually spend time with my daughter. So many people were saying, wow, it's actually amazing.
Right. Right. And that is so true, and I think our listeners can really relate to that as well, because when you look at the time, I mean, a lot of time, driving, especially if you're in a big city, sometimes it was more than an hour. Sometimes you spent
Mhm.
3 hours on the road, going from, home to business, like you say. And then you're grabbing something, because you're eating out all the time, or it's fast food, and then you just kind of like have to rush, and you just kind of inhale, So there's so many things that time has shifted, and I mean, I've worked from home like most of my life. I've been in business for myself since I was 10, so to be able to, it's like, wow, to have to go to work for someone is like, I don't think I could handle that,
No,
right? I
no.
just wasn't made for that. But I think people are beginning to realize, even working at a 9 to 5 and working from home, and like I said, I think there's so many businesses now that are realizing that their employees are just as productive or even more productive, and their ideas are shifting. Now look at the planet, right? Oh my gosh, we don't have the pollution like we used to, right? And again, let's look at pollution of the mind. You talked about the mindset. So when you're working with your clients, how do you clean that pollution up here for them? What's your technique?
Well, definitely it's to show them what they already have, and that they have what it takes now. It's not that they may have in 10 years, that they are ready, and that they have something unique and special to share and to give to others. And actually, they are, bringing harm to others if they don't share it, because it might be exactly what others need now.
Right.
And I see that often sharing my story and helping them realize it, they tell me, oh wow, I finally won't be afraid to ask to be paid. I finally won't be afraid to sell my art anymore. So I think this is the biggest breakthrough, and just realizing that there are so many possibilities, especially now because of the whole thing of COVID. I'm seeing so many new projects online, so many new businesses,
Right?
so many new initiatives that never existed before, just because people are discovering the resources that they already had, like Zoom, for example. But most people didn't use Zoom
They
till
didn't
the
even know what it
pandemic.
was, right?
Exactly. Some didn't even know what an email was. So now they are discovering it. So, and it gives you really endless possibilities. Like, I'm a speaker on an online virtual summit. I didn't even know such things existed. And now, so it also opens you the door no matter where you live, and even if you may not be directly in the place where the things are
Right.
happening, you still can be connected, and you still can do your work and grow and do what you want to do. So it's all about the creativity and just searching and adjusting. And I think the other very important thing we work on is to make those baby steps you talked about, because of course you immediately have to do huge things now. Baby
Right.
steps, and learning that mistakes are not a failure. They are something normal, and they are the part of the process, and they are just good. They are lessons. So you shouldn't be afraid and hate yourself for making mistakes, because in fact it's something that helps you grow. So just accepting yourself,
Right.
accepting what you have, and appreciating what you can give to others. I think this is the most important shift that we work on, so that artists can move forward.
So where do you help them market their wares, their artwork and stuff? How do you put that out there to the world?
Well, we definitely search for ways that work for them, because I noticed on myself that when I was first starting out, and I was starting on Instagram, and if you check all the gurus of Instagram, they will tell you do Instagram lives or Facebook lives and things like this. And they never worked for me. I hated doing it. I never felt some kind of sense in it. I was even shying, and definitely my audience could feel it, so it wasn't working. So
Right.
I discovered that no matter what somebody tells you, you have to find a way to make these things work for you, like what you feel inside, and of course making it fit to your audience. Because, for example, for me, Instagram works great because fashion is on Instagram. So, but you also can't just follow the crowd. You have to look at who are you talking to, and focus on where they are, and then find ways that are pretty much natural to you, something that comes easily for you to connect with them. Because if it will be something that you shy, and like I had problems with those lives, they will feel it, and it won't be real, and they will feel you're just trying to sell to them, and they will not feel
Right.
the connection. So we're just trying to find combine these elements of, well, your audience, who you're talking to, and how you uniquely can talk to them to connect with them.
Right. I'm working in the virtual reality world, and we've created business. We've taken that gaming industry and turned it into business and into education, right? And so basically, what we've done is we've created worlds, because that's what they call them out there, right? Where where an artist can actually bring in their paintings, right, and put it in a setting like a gallery setting, right? So we could have one artist, with their name over here, and so when someone's coming online to check it out, they can go in this gallery and check out all this beautiful artwork, because you've got the graphics of it, right? And if they like it, all they have to do is click, and it goes to pay, and then the artist can ship, right? And regardless whether it's a photograph, whether it's an actual, water painting or acrylic, whatever it is, or if it's a sculpture of any kind, all of these things can be done, if you're an author. We've got a place where you can, a library where you can put your books and advertise it. We're doing vendor events where, you're running around your little avatar, and you got people, attendees coming around. They
Mm-hmm.
come up to your booth, and they say, oh, what you got? Because you communicate in there. It's connection. We really taken this distancing now and brought it back into that connection. And so you're talking with a real person across the table, just like when you used to go to a convention or a show of any kind, an art show, and you have your wares right there, and they can see it, right?
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
They can communicate with you. And so it's an option because now you're global. We're on a global platform. So that's something that you might want to consider when you're talking with your artist. It's another way to reach and get
Yeah, definitely.
their stuff out. So there's so much going on, and we started this too, just like in February. We had this going and connecting with people and whatever. And then once this isolation started, all of a sudden we started getting inundated. People were looking for ways because it's like, whoa, the movement stopped, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in a world of technology. Now let's put it to use in the manner in which it was fashioned for, right?
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, Aleksandra, this has been a treat listening to you today and how you've taken that world of art and photography and that fashion and really brought it to life, and to really start inspiring and working with artists out there that are lost, because there's a lot of artists that have been lost for a long time, and now you're bringing them to the forefront, and I think that is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
If you have one thing that you could leave with the audience, in this realm of what you're doing, what would you share with them?
Well, I think the most important thing is start right now, start right away, no matter how silly the steps may seem or what your ideas may seem, or because you don't know how to start, and just do it, just start, and you will start, the snowball will start rolling. Use whatever you have and just go for it, because it's not that you become the master in one day. It's all a process. It's not that you gain momentum in one day, but you have to start somewhere. And I always say, okay, let's say if you were about to succeed in 5 years, but let's hypothetically say so. If you say, okay, I will start tomorrow, you will succeed in 5 years plus 1 day. But if you keep procrastinating for 6 months, you will succeed in 5 years and 6 months. So there's no point, because you are not going to skip this beginning process of not knowing, of being a little lost, but that is necessary for you to learn and to see where you really are going. So just start right now, using everything that you have, and even if something may seem your disadvantage, turn it into advantage. Like I did, it seemed to me that being young female foreigner is a total disadvantage for me. And when I was going for the interviews to the studios, they were telling me, but this equipment is heavy. You can't carry it. You're too small. So I was like devastated. And later it turned out that working with bloggers, like I told you at the beginning, actually being young female is my advantage, because they prefer working with me. So just focus on what you have, what you can do at the moment, and start right away, and be active, keep searching, and it will work out. I guess that's my message.
And that's a great message, because it is so true. Really start focusing on what's my assets. And a lot of people are afraid to brag on themselves, but you know what? You need to focus on that. What's your asset? Put it into action. Because if you don't become a Nike and just do it, nothing gets happening, right? Because change is going to continue to move with or without you. So you either go with it, or you don't go at all, right?
Yeah.
And that was very, very great words of wisdom there. Start now. Otherwise, if you start 6 months from now, you've got all that space that was wasted time, right?
Yeah.
And time is precious, because you never get it back.
Yeah.
Right? So it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be. Get started right now becoming that best you, because every day is being a better you. Aleksandra and I are going to be the best we that we can be today, and we will all see you on the next show.